Hello, it's Tom Donald from the London Contemporary School of Piano. Today we are going to walk through a beautiful piece of music, Chopin's E minor prelude from his 24 preludes. Chopin's E minor prelude piano walkthrough. And before we get started, if you are a fan of our work at the London Contemporary School of Piano, I have prepared a special score of this piece that is part of our resources kit. In the special prepared score of this piece I put together, it has some simple annotations to help some of you who do struggle a bit with your sight reading so you can get stuck into the beautiful chords that we're going to be looking at this iconic piece of music by Chopin. So to get the resources kit, you just have to head on over to our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, to request the free resources kit. It has many other great materials in it, including this piece. So to make today's tutorial even more special, I am sitting on a Blüthner grand piano here in Leipzig, Germany, at the Blüthner Piano Factory that was manufactured at a similar time of Chopin's life. This is a 19th century Blüthner piano. It's over 100 years old. It's been refurbished, so it's in top condition, but it sounds and sings like a piano from Chopin's era. So I feel like I'm in a little bit of a time machine right now. And so that's going to just make it a little bit more fun for me today. So let me just get started with the first few bars of this piece, just so you can have a listen to it. And then we're going to talk about ways of practicing it and putting it together. What is amazing about this piece of music, before I continue and before we start practicing it, what is amazing about it is it's just one page long. What Chopin has said in just one page is truly beautiful, remarkable, profound. And the structure of it, we're going to talk about that as well. I think that's if any of you compose music, this is a really incredible skill to have, is the ability to compose something very short, just a page long, and to say as many things without any waffle, without any excess, just getting straight to the heart of something. And even when you listen to that melody, it's just two notes, right? To start with. So let's unpick that. Well, the first place we have to unpick that is with the left hand, with the chords. Let's look at what's happening with these chords. Now, Chopin has been very clever with his chords here. It's almost like he's treating the inversions and the smoothness of the movement between the chords as the end goal here. It's not even the chords itself. What he's doing, if you just look at the changes that are occurring, I'm not going to play the repetitions. And this is a really great way to start practicing this piece, is we just play the changes, not the repetitions. We've got this first chord here, this E minor in an inversion. But I'm not going to get too analytical here about what the chords actually are, because it's how he travels between them, which is really interesting. I've just dropped the bottom two notes there on that second bar. Then halfway through that second bar, we drop the top note. Then we drop the bottom note. Then we drop the top note, the middle note, the bottom note, the middle note, the top note again, the middle note, repeats, the bottom note again, the middle note, the top note, the bottom two notes, the top note, the bottom note, the middle note, the bottom two notes go up, The bottom two notes go down. The bottom two notes go up. The bottom two notes go down, and then we have a little rest. Most of those changes, almost all of them, except the few at the end, it was just one note that was changing, and they were pretty much always changing by semitones, by half notes. And semitones, they create that emotional feeling of despair. This is quite a despairing piece of music, but it's very operatic. I like to imagine that this is an opera piece. I like to imagine that the right hand is like the soprano on the stage, and in opera the soprano usually dies. In traditional opera it's usually a tragedy. So the soprano is on the stage singing with passion about heartbreak or whatever the soprano is singing about, and then you have the orchestra in the pit. Now we can't see the orchestra, but they're holding the whole thing together with these beautiful, amazing and powerful chords. So hold that picture in your head when we practice this. So let's go over those chords again. And what I've done on the score, I've marked the directions and then annotated where the notes are moving. So if you're not a strong sight reader, you can head on over to our website and get the resources kit to help you learn this piece, because it fits under the fingers really nicely. So when practicing fine classical music like this, you want to practice it in stages like this. It's about the journey, not the destination. Don't just rush your way through it. Don't just look at the beginning and play from the beginning to the end. We are practicing this together. So you just want to spend a bit of time just doing that in your left hand. Just getting used to using the left hand like that and moving between the chords. That's so important. You might spend a few days doing that. Just move at your own pace. The slower you learn, the better you'll play. And the slower you play it and the slower you practice it, the faster you'll process everything. And that feels counterintuitive. So we're taking this in slowly. I have to move a little quicker because we're making a tutorial. It could end up going 3 hours if I moved as slowly as I wanted to right now. So I'm going to go a little quicker than I would even like to, just for the sake of time. Now we've spent a bit of time playing the chords like that. The next thing is to add the repetitions, but what we don't want to do is play it like this. Yes, it's not pretty. This music's not metronomic. It's not BPM like in pop music where it's just the same beat and never gets faster or slower. It's just locked in on a BPM. No, we are using a principle here known as rubato. Have you heard of rubato before? Have a guess. If you have heard of rubato before, do you know what it actually means? It's an Italian word and it's a concept that's used in classical and romantic music, often used. And in this piece, we need to use it. Rubato, what does it mean? It means stolen time. We are actually stealing time from the bar, but we have an ethical dilemma. Because we are stealing the time, we have to give it back. You can't just steal something and not give back. You can't just take something and not give back. So if I'm going to go a little faster in some parts, I have to then slow down to compensate. So that's what rubato is. If you imagine that tempo is a straight line, rubato is the curve. It's like a worm that goes around that straight line. But the average should approximately still be the exact BPM. So you can't practice music like this to a metronome. You have to have your internal metronome. And that's the concept of rubato. And this piece, fortunately, is set up to learn how to play rubato. It's very hard to play rubato properly. Most rubato is sloppy, and sloppy is just stolen time where you didn't give it back, and it just comes across as sloppy. But this piece is designed for good, effective rubato because there's a lot of repetition. So when I play the first chord, and then I've got the repetition, my temptation is, and correctly so, is to just move it on a little bit, not just to be ploddy. That's boring. So I'm going to move it on a little bit. But then when I change to the chord, I pull back a bit. I'm exaggerating a bit, but just to demonstrate. And I can even accent change. It's good to accent the change. It doesn't have to all be uniform. I was doing that naturally when I was playing. I wasn't overdoing it, but that's a good demonstration of the concept of rubato. Yeah, see, we don't be a thief. We give back to the time. We borrow and we take back. And that's the concept of it. So let me attempt to do this. Even to this day, I'm still working on my rubato. It's like chasing a rainbow. You never feel like you quite get there, but that's part of the journey. So I'm just going to play the left hand because the left hand of this piece is so interesting. We need to actually spend a lot of time on the left hand before we even think about bringing the soprano on the stage. We're having a rehearsal with the pit orchestra of this operatic production. And it's, and we're the conductor of our own orchestra. Our orchestra is our left hand, and we've got to sort this left hand out before we even think of the right hand. So let's do a rubato run through of those chords with the pedal as well. Accenting the change. I can slightly accent those top notes as well on the chord if I want, just to add a bit of colour to the chords. Now I'm going to keep going. Now this is where we get to the structure of the piece, where something happens. We're halfway through the piece. It's been sort of brewing, but we're not quite sure what's going to happen. It's been hanging up in the air a little bit. And then something quite remarkable happens. And the left hand really says it all. We don't even need the right hand to demonstrate what happens here. Let's have a look at it. What happened there is before I head to the end, we're almost near the end of the whole piece with just the left hand, we had the climax. And the climax of this opera, this one-page opera, this is an opera in just a page. Yes, Wagner wrote operas that were like 5 hours long. Chopin has written an opera, a mini opera for just a piano. No big band, no big production, in just one page. That's genius, it really is. But this is the climax of the opera. The climax has occurred 3/4 of the way during the piece. It's a very romantic period concept in music. And it's an organic structure. It's not a sonata or a symphony that has a much more sort of tighter structure. This is a more looser structure, but generally we're building up to that moment. So let's find where that moment is. The moment. That's a moment we want to isolate in our practice because it's sort of the point. And if you get to the point of the piece, you want to execute it really well. And it's the loudest point of the piece. I'm on a historical piano, so on the historical piano, I don't have a huge dynamic range that I would have on a modern piano. But that's good because it sort of makes me be a bit more, I have to think more musically. It's a little easier on a modern piano because you can really get a big volume, and you want to. So here's the climax. The climax is this chord. And this is the chord. What is that chord? Well, it's not quite a B7, it's a B7 with a flattened ninth. If Chopin were alive today, he'd be a jazz pianist with chords like that, But he's separated the chord between this and this. And you have to use the pedal. That's why he's marked a pedal mark there, because he wants that B to ring when this chord is being played. So it almost should sound like you're playing it with two hands, like this. We're now going to play it just with the left hand, but we've got the pedal, so we can get off that B and arrive on this chord to complete the B flattened ninth, or the B with a flattened ninth in it. Yeah. So this is like So you want to spend a bit of time just doing this. If you're having a bad day, just walk up to a piano and do this. This therapy, you'll feel so much better. Such drama in that chord. But then, the difficult thing is the bar before that, getting the crescendo, this crescendo that leads into that, which is this. It's not easy. It's not easy. I have to spend a bit of time getting that. I'm going to go slowly. And then after that crescendo, it starts to fade down again, starts to decrescendo, back to the similar dynamic that we had at the beginning of the piece. And then we think it's going to end, but it doesn't. We go to a C major chord. It's an interrupted cadence. That's code for procrastination. Even though the piece is only a page long, he's stretching things out. Oh, we've even got an E major chord, a piece in E minor. He's throwing in a bit of a spark of happiness. Oh, he corrects that very quickly back to the E minor. We think we're going to end this. Another interrupted cadence here with a C7 chord with the B flat in the bass. And then there's a pause. You can take a breath, and then we have the final two chords of the piece played pianissimo, really soft, but deep. And then finally, the inevitable end. So even with just the chords alone, with no melody, it's a thriller, this piece. It's an absolute, at the edge of your seat theatre. And then we're going to add the soprano. Now, the soprano is the star of the show. The orchestra is very, very important, but they are just they're just supporting the singers on the stage. So it might say piano on the score. It might have a mark of a P, which means play soft, but that does not mean that your hands are playing at the same dynamic. Music notation is not like that. We have to think artistically. So really, our right hand's at a mezzo forte, medium loud, singer range, and the left hand is much softer, more in the piano range, pianissimo range, something like that, but still with those lovely voicings to get that sense of rubato. So it's really important to not think of dynamics on a score. I see so many students make this mistake. They see a P on the score and they think, I've got to play soft, and they play like this. And it's dead. Not P for puny and just like weak and passive and uninteresting. So it's always good to almost like just ignore the dynamics for a moment and just use your ear and listen to the sound you're making. So you want the soprano to be very present. Like that. It's got to really sing. So it's all about the quality of your sound now. How much can I squeeze out of those just two notes in the right hand? Finally, another note here. My job is to make the piano sing. That's what great pianism is. Make the piano sing. It's not about being perfect. It's about making it sing. If you have to play wrong notes in your quest to make the piano sing, that's a good thing. Something beautiful happens here. There's a soprano solo. Let's talk about that soprano solo. Again, it's not metronomical. It's not like this. Boring. No, a soprano would never sing like that. Soprano looks at the notes but puts expression. There's words there. Now, we don't know what the words are because this is instrumental, but we have to imagine that we're conveying a message. That accent on the C means probably just stay there for a bit longer. Squeeze out every note. And then that leads us back in to the climax. Okay, let's look at this climax now. Now that ending, I could end it in many ways. I could just use my technique to get that soft but ending resolve of that final cadence. Or I could just help myself a little bit by using the left foot pedal, which moves the whole grand piano to this direction. And it means I'm only striking part of the string, not all of the string. And that means I get less vibrations, which means my ability to play softer is improved. And that might help me at that very end. So if I do the last few bars, which one do you prefer? Without? Or with? It's very subtle, but you feel the difference on the keyboard, particularly when you're sitting there. So that's something you can experiment around with as well. Now, I would have played a few wrong notes there, if you noticed, but that's because my goal is the expression, not the notes. I'm always going to play wrong notes when I'm trying to get my expression, because the most important thing when you play this music is intent. You must play with intent and with purpose, not in a transactional way. Transactional playing will put you to sleep and everyone around you. You do not want to play it in that way. You've got to squeeze all the goodness that you possibly can out of the music. And I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial. I'm very inspired by the 24 preludes that Chopin wrote. They were inspired by Bach as well, because Bach wrote 24 preludes and fugues in every single major and minor key. And Chopin thought, well, I might do the same thing. And he writes these beautiful, many of them very short pieces. Some of them are just 2 or 3 lines long in like the A major prelude. So you can look at the Chopin 24 preludes and have a look at how he communicates his musical ideas through all these different preludes in every major and minor key. And recently I did the same thing. In a beautiful concert hall in the Baltics, in Latvia, I recorded on a beautiful new concert hall, I recorded 24 preludes where I improvise in every major and minor key. If you want to check out my album, it's called My Tempered Clavier. You can check it out on Apple Music or Spotify or your preferred platform. Or you could check out also the great recordings of the 24 preludes by Chopin. There's so many great pianists. My favourite recording, just personally, it's very opinionated, everyone has their own opinions, would be Marta Argerich's recording of the E minor prelude by Chopin. It just has a little spontaneity to it that it just always excites me every time I hear it. You should definitely check out her recording of it. It's one of the best you can hear. It's been a pleasure playing on this beautiful, beautiful historical piano from Chopin's time. Chopin played on Blüthner pianos in his time. So it's just amazing to think that I've got the opportunity to share this history with you here in Leipzig, Germany, one of the great cultural centres of classical music in the world. And I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial, and I hope you're inspired to get practicing. So have a lot of fun with your practice. Do head on over to our website to get the resources kit, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, so you can get all of that information that you need about this piece of music through our resources kit. And I look forward to speaking with you soon. Thank you.